Today is Saturday, August 31st. As we celebrate the achievements of American workers this Labor Day weekend, we wanted to check in on the newest work trends. Today, we have Julia Pollak on the show. She's the Chief Economist at ZipRecruiter. She's telling us all about the job market now and what to expect next from the influence of remote work, AI, interest rate cuts, the election, and even the next generation of workers. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Julia Pollak, thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsworthy once again.
Thank you so much, Erica.
So first off, let's just get an update. Generally speaking, what's the current state of the job market?
So the job market has been slowing and cooling for over 2 years now, ever since the Fed started raising interest rates. At first, that was probably a good thing. The labor market was normalizing and getting back to about the conditions that existed before the pandemic. But now, many economists are worrying that it is cooling too much, and that it could actually get into a little bit of trouble unless rates normalize soon.
And just explain for people who maybe don't follow it closely, what does cooling really mean for workers?
So the unemployment rate has risen from a low of 3.4% all the way up to 4.3%. And the hiring rate, the number of people hired each month as a share of the workforce, has fallen to around 2014, 2015 levels. The government and healthcare are still going gangbusters and hiring a lot. But outside of those two sectors, the economy added just a handful of jobs in the last jobs report, about 33,000. The pre-pandemic average between 2015 and 2019 was 137,000 a month. So this is quite a bit slower than it was before the pandemic.
So I imagine what we saw at one point, where lots of people were confident quitting and getting new jobs and demanding higher wages, is really not happening as much anymore.
Right. So 2022 was all about the Great Resignation, and now it's more like the big stay, where companies are laying off far fewer people, but also hiring fewer people. And people aren't job hopping nearly as much.
Any other big trends you're seeing right now? I mean, I know we used to talk about quiet quitting, where maybe you're not leaving the job, but you're not working as hard either. Are you still seeing that?
Something we did see during the Great Resignation was that employers had to do a lot of work to recruit and retain workers. They were offering signing bonuses. They were throwing a lot of money at candidates. And candidates felt that they had more bargaining power and leverage, and they were using it. We've seen the share of newly hired workers who are negotiating their offers fall quite substantially. Among those who do negotiate, many of them are not getting what they ask for anymore. So the tables have turned a little bit. Look, it's still a pretty tight labor market. We still have pretty low unemployment. Most workers have considerable job security. We haven't seen a big uptick in layoffs. And yet, things have slowed and cooled to the extent that workers feel it and it's affecting their behavior.
What's the state of remote and hybrid work, and is that playing into what we're seeing in the job market?
So most companies that asked workers to come back to the office have changed their return to office policies multiple times. And that's because they realized that returning to the office has a cost, a huge recruitment cost and a huge retention cost.
To your point, I see an empty office behind you as we're talking right now. You're in the office, but it doesn't look like many other people are.
Well, this office behind me used to be packed, bustling. There was a war over conference rooms. That's no longer the case. ZipRecruiter has embraced full remote and hybrid flexibility. It's been great for the company. We have access to talent across the entire country now. And it hasn't hurt connection because the company has been very intentional about holding 4 or 5 collaboration weeks a year. We also have lots and lots of Zoom meetings with cameras on where we see each other and talk and collaborate, and we have all the best sort of collaboration tools. I feel like the company is actually highly connected.
Did you have any data by chance of where things stand in terms of remote and hybrid work among American companies?
Yeah, before the pandemic, it was like 3 to 5% of workdays were done remotely, and now it's more like 20%, and that has flatlined this year. We're not seeing that fall. Remote jobs are a much smaller share of job postings online, only around 10%. And that's because companies have to post jobs much more frequently that have higher turnover. And it's those in-person roles that have the highest turnover. So if you just look at what's going on in job postings, that's the world I live in on ZipRecruiter, it looks as though there are fewer remote opportunities available. That's only because the non-remote opportunities tend to be more short-term.
What generational shifts have you seen in terms of what jobs people are going for? And I ask because we just recently reported this week an article that talked about the lack of interest among younger generations in the job of accounting and a concern that, we're going to have a shortage of accountants. Are you seeing that in any other specific jobs or industries that are really seeing shortages or a lack of interest with the next generation?
Absolutely, in many. So 2024 to 2027 are called peak 65 years in the United States. Those are the years that the largest numbers of Americans will be turning 65, and there are likely to be huge waves of retirements. And so there are many industries where the average worker's age is quite high, and suddenly everyone's looking around and realizing, wow, everyone's 65 and we're all planning our retirement. What are we going to do?
I mean, are there legitimate reasons why this younger generation does not want to get into these industries? Or is it an opportunity for people paying attention to say, oh, I could have more success here because there's less competition?
So a lot of young people see a couple of influencers online becoming extraordinarily wealthy and successful. They see tech employees making $300,000-$400,000 a year. And so, you're seeing enrollment in computer science programs grow very rapidly. You're seeing people who become entrepreneurs and start businesses online. You're seeing that growing. You're seeing a lot of people wanting to go into marketing. And then no one really wants to turn wrenches and become a technician or an installation tech. And actually, there are very lucrative, high-paying jobs in construction and manufacturing. And many of those jobs are very high tech these days. They're not nearly as unsafe as they used to be in the past, but that information hasn't necessarily filtered down to job seekers.
The big topic of the moment is artificial intelligence. What will its role in our work lives be? Is it coming to replace us all? Next, Julia Pollak reveals what type of job is already seeing the most impact and how both job seekers and employers are using AI for better or worse. Then we explain why so-called non-competes are in the news, plus how the job market may be affected by interest rate cuts and even the election. That and more coming up next in our conversation. But first, a quick break for our sponsors. There's so much I appreciate about everything I've tried from Honeylove. It really seems like this is a brand that has thought of everything that women of all sizes need to feel confident and comfortable. My favorite legging 2.0 is just one example, since it seems to have so many little features that help me out. Whether it's smooth and cooling fabric, or the side pockets, or the shaping panels, I love the look of them too. And they've thought of everything for shapewear and bras that keep you comfortable and supported all day or night long. Honeylove has you covered for the everyday look, workouts, weddings, and more. Honeylove is not just supporting women, it's empowering women. Treat yourself to the best bras, leggings, and more on the market and save 20% at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off honeylove.com/newsworthy to find your perfect fit. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them, so please support our show and tell them we sent you. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style with bras, leggings, shapewear, and more that empower your lifestyle of flexibility. The Newsworthy is also brought to you by Ibotta. Whether you need to shop for your next barbecue, the back-to-school season, or just boring old everyday groceries and supplies, Ibotta helps you stress less about the cost. Because Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every time you shop. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and that's it. The money is yours. It's time you join the over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. And right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code Newsworthy when you register. Go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back and use code Newsworthy. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use the code Newsworthy. Okay, now back to our conversation. Artificial intelligence is all the rage these days. So how is it impacting work right now, potentially both negatively and positively?
About half of job seekers are using AI in their job search, and about half of newly hired workers say that they're using a generative AI tool for their work, in some kind of capacity, whether it is just to summarize content or they're actually working on an AI product like a chatbot or something. So it's clearly being adopted very quickly. It's rapidly becoming part of what businesses are doing. That is encouraging people to start paying quite a lot of money to get AI certifications. So we've seen that happen as well. But, it's the waits to be seen how exactly AI is going to transform all these companies and careers.
You talked about some of the positive aspects. I mean, maybe it's helping people with productivity. It's helping with access. There has been fear, though, that it could take over some people's jobs. Are we seeing that yet? And do you expect us to see that?
Right about the time that ChatGPT got launched, demand for freelancers did go down on many online freelance platforms. So perhaps you might have hired someone in the past to draft a speech for your mother's 80th birthday, or you might have hired someone quickly online to write copy for an ad. Well, many people are now using ChatGPT to write the first draft. So yes, there has been a clear effect on one kind of demand for sort of contingent work. Outside of that, we're not seeing that much effect just yet on any main occupation. But of course, there's tremendous fear. Like in Hollywood, that was one of the major reasons for the writers' strike. Writers worried that they would be replaced.
I mean, you mentioned AI being used by job seekers. What about employers using it? Is there concern around the biases in AI? One study showed AI suggested higher salaries for white-sounding names compared to black-sounding names. How are companies using this and considering some of those biases?
Sure, so major companies are certainly using tools that are powered by AI to sort candidates, to find candidates, to personalize communications with job candidates. It's very much in use to streamline the hiring process. Hiring is biased. There's bias throughout the hiring process. In a job interview, you're forming a judgment about somebody in 30 minutes. Of course, it's going to be biased. Their clothing has an effect. Their smile, their body language. Arguably, AI tools can reduce bias. At ZipRecruiter, for example, we use AI in our matching algorithms, but we strip out names and addresses and the pieces of information that we fear could bias the choice and make those algorithms focus on skills and qualifications. So by doing that, we've found it could actually reduce bias.
There's also been news lately about non-compete. The FTC planned to ban them starting next week, but then a federal judge recently blocked that ban, saying the FTC has no authority to enforce it. So can you remind people, what is a non-compete and what's the impact or the potential impact of this back and forth?
Many workers in their contract have some kind of clause that says, when you leave here, you can't go and start a company in exactly the same industry within the next 6 months, or you can't leave from our company to a competitor within a certain time frame. There might be some legitimate reasons to do that. Let's say that you're a company that invents new drugs and you spend billions of dollars to research the magic formula for weight loss or curing cancer, whatever it is, only to have the employee in whom you've invested so much leave and take all your business and clients. Well, that could be a problem. The issue, though, is that what ended up happening was that the use of non-compete agreements became excessively broad, and cashiers at grocery stores who were making $20,000 a year had these secret non-compete clauses in their contracts that they didn't even know about until they left, when suddenly their employer was going after them and taking them to court for going to work at the neighboring grocery store. Now, that, of course, is like a crazy abuse of this policy, and no one can see any social good coming out of that. In fact, the result is just to depress wages, to trap people in jobs, to prevent them from having any kind of job mobility and choice. The problem with the FTC's decision, though, was that it was also overly broad. It just banned non-competes pretty much across the board and had no carve-outs and no exceptions. Surely, for workers who are getting a massive investment in their skills and intellectual property and are getting access to highly sort of confidential trade secrets, perhaps there should be some way to protect those secrets. And so hospitals, especially health organizations, have pushed back strongly, and they got the courts in Texas to put a hold on this. And what will probably emerge at the end of the whole process is a more limited rule that applies to low-wage workers, to frontline workers, to people who really shouldn't be in any kind of non-compete agreement.
Curious if you have a take on how the election and or its outcome might potentially affect the job market and any policy changes that you're watching for.
So the main effect of an election on the job market is that it slows investment and hiring in the months prior, because there are some investors, some business people who decide to take a wait-and-see approach. When there's any kind of uncertainty, they decide to wait for certainty before they act. The election itself will probably have less effect on the macroeconomy than many people think. I think in the United States, we attribute economic successes and failures to the president far more than is probably warranted.
Anything else you're watching for or expecting in the months ahead or even in 2025?
I think the big question is, what will the effect of normalizing rates be on the labor market? There are some people who think it'll have an only limited effect on hiring because the Fed will slow walk that normalization of rates and won't want the labor market to get too heady and too overheated again. There are others who think that even small differences will have a huge effect because there is all this money sitting in safe investments that will come flooding back into the stock market. There are all these companies with fantastic opportunities to grow and expand who've been holding back. There are all these young families like mine who have been wanting to, buy a new house or buy a new car, but who have been deterred by the high cost of credit and the high payments that they would face. Even a 150 basis point cut in interest rates could actually stimulate a lot of activity in this economy. What will happen with pay transparency? That's a trend that was just taking off. And then this year so far in 2024, it's been sort of crickets. It's actually been a pullback in the number of companies posting pay in their job openings.
Final thought about the job market as we wrap up here.
I think we could be on the cusp of a very exciting moment in the labor market where there's a surge of demand for talent, where employers realize that due to demographic trends, labor shortages are here to stay and are forced to make investments in improving their roles. And, and where those sort of demographic trends cause companies to modernize roles, to reach out to candidates, to make some pretty significant improvements. So this is an exciting time. Pay attention, look out for what's going on, see which exciting jobs are emerging and which skills you need to get to be competitive, and then go for it.
Well, thank you so much to Julia Pollak and ZipRecruiter. For more insights, follow Julia Pollak on Twitter @JuliaOnJobs. And of course, you can go to ZipRecruiter for all things jobs and hiring. Thank you so much for listening today. A reminder that we will not have an episode this Monday due to the Labor Day holiday, but we will be back on Tuesday with your next 10-minute news roundup. Until then, have a great rest of your holiday weekend.